Well, we haven't done this for a couple of weeks. I've gotten some really good questions. There seems to be a lot of questions about vocals. And
let's talk vocals.
Yeah, and in kind of every respect, in the respect of home recording setup, gear, of course, which I know you love talking about, how to mix vocals, how to think about vocal production. I mean, we can kind of go any direction with that. And I think it's actually, they all inform each other and it's all important. Realizing more and more that even if we get out of this pandemic and people are doing in-person sessions, we're going to have a long stretch here. We've had a long stretch and we'll continue to probably have months of people being, quote unquote, forced to make recordings from home. So home recorded vocals or self-recorded vocals, self-vocal production or remote vocal production is going to just be a big part of things going forward.
I think that's great.
I think so too. I mean, great. We maybe talked about this last time, but of the vocals that you get, and you're doing a spectrum of things from huge pop artists to presumably less successful, less moneyed projects, or not successful, but you know what I mean. What is the range of? I don't know. What are the vocals like that you're getting? I assume some of them are going to be amazing, some of them are not. Is it mostly home recorded?
I just mixed this beautiful string arrangement with Phoebe Bridgers on top of it. And I'm a huge fan of Phoebe in general. She's great. But she was recorded so beautifully, right? So the recording of it, I don't know where it was done. I don't know how it was done. I could probably find out. It's so inspiring to work on, right? So right off the bat, you have the arranger, producer, the engineer engaged in the song because the vocal was recorded well. You can't doubt the importance of an amazing recorded vocal. So we should be talking about this. Now, it works against a lot of people because you have to go into it with confidence, right? So you have to go in imagining you're hearing yourself properly. And that's a thing that I always want to talk about is like headphone mix, right? So if we're talking about how to record properly, I think the first thing, besides microphone, preamp, and the vocal chain that everybody talks about, I'm thinking more vibe, room, headphone mix.
I think more and more the gear, microphone, not that it doesn't matter, but,
Yeah, it matters to a degree. I think over-processing of the signal being captured is something more to be concerned with than the microphone choice. I think I'm not the biggest fan of an SM7, but I just got an SM7 vocal from someone recently that I had a pleasure mixing. So it was the right fit for that person's voice in that room, and it was easy for me to mix. And I wouldn't even have known it was an SM7 unless I looked at the comments that my assistant Josh had put, or someone left in the session that said it. I wouldn't even have known. I wouldn't have guessed that it was an SM7. So
I'm a huge SM7 fan.
Most people are. Yeah. I despise them.
Why?
It always sounds like this. And then the argument of Michael Jackson sounds like always used it. Yeah, he sounds like this. The tracks are towering around Michael Jackson. I don't think Michael Jackson's vocal recording is the most ideal sounding. That's not where I would measure up versus a Drake, where for modern recordings, his voice sounds larger than life, man. I mean, I don't know how it was captured, how it was processed after. I kind of do. I've gotten a dry Drake vocal once before in my life, and it's just so much mid-range presence. It's coming from his voice. I have actually had that dry stem come to me, and he sounds like that. That's him. So get that the best way.
Well, it's worth just interjecting real quick that as much as we talk about the technical aspects, that Michael Jackson fella had some good songs that seemed to be effective. So if in the end you have something like an SM7, you can do everything else perfectly and sell more records than anyone that's ever existed, because in the end, and we'll talk about it, there's these technical aspects to it, but it really is, if you can hear yourself and the room is decently dry and you're not too close to the mic and you have a great song and you emote like crazy, But sorry.
So, I know I like to think, I was listening to, I think it was an Eric Weinstein podcast recently, the most recent one I think he did with his friend Stefan, And towards the end of it, what?
I love that one. You saw me listening to Ornette Coleman after they were talking.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
That's why I said shapes, and you hit me with vortex.
Vortex. Yeah. Ornette Coleman plays. Yeah.
He first said he plays in shapes, and after he hears the physics terminology, he goes, "I play in vortexes."
That's incredible.
I play the vortex.
I want to talk like that. I want to be like that.
I know. But I mean, I think that way in a lot of ways. Like, I do think in shapes, and I think in colors when I'm seeing a mix. So when recording, but the thing that really got me towards the end of the conversation, he discusses that there's no way of coming at a conversation in order to learn something from it without asking something that's going to inconvenience someone else, right? So I'd like to come at this by inconveniencing with asking like harder questions and asking people, why do they do certain things, right? So if I were sitting with someone that was asking me how to record at home, and I would ask them, well, why do you record with your microphone so close to your mouth, right? I would ask them why. And along the list of things that we could get back would be that, well, I hear myself the best that way. And then you say, okay, cool. So why are your headphones so loud? Or have you tried turning down the track so your vocal stays loud? Like, have you taken one ear off and put it against your neck so it doesn't bleed into the microphone? You know, have you tried these things, and why do you do certain things? And I think that the online audio community, or the curriculum of possibilities for learning, doesn't really ask harder questions. They just sell you things that you can use to remedy the problems and create solutions for problems you don't even know you have, that you might not already have figured out on your own. So instead of, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, I'm wanting to ask the questions, why do you do something? And then I can maybe prescribe a fix. So knowing that, what do you say to this in the home recording?
Man, I got a lot of thoughts about it. It actually, like, taking even a step further back, most of the resources that exist on the internet have a financial incentive involved. Yes. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this that you and I've talked about is there's no financial incentive for us to just talk and have people watch and ask questions. I just really enjoy it, and it's a conversation that you and I would have anyway, and to involve other people I think is really great, because I think when you're looking for advice on the internet, there's amazing resources, better than there's ever been, and it will continue to be that way. And I guess things like this are now a part of it. But don't think that a product or the right tactic is going to be the thing that changes the quality of what you're doing or improves it. It really is some of these basic approaches, like, can you hear yourself properly? Are you emotionally invested in singing the vocal? These sort of things I think are much more important.
I mean, before thinking that your headphones suck, think, are you distorting them because your headphone amp is too loud, or the vocal is clipping the mix bus internally in the computer that's causing your headphones to sound like they're distorting, versus you having to buy another pair of headphones because so-and-so says these are the best headphones.
You know, one of the things I was thinking about this, I was probably talking about this the other day too, by analogy, my brother works in the coffee industry. He essentially is a middleman between farmers and roasters. He deals with green coffee, so he deals with the commodities market and finding coffee in places like Ethiopia and Honduras and elsewhere, and then helping get those beans, selling them to people who then roast coffee, from Starbucks to a little coffee shop that roasts their own beans. But his education is everything from the farming to pulling an amazing espresso shot. He has a spectrum of knowledge that informs what he does, in that he has an ability to do all of it, essentially. I don't know if he probably could grow a coffee plant himself. He can certainly
I'm sure
pull an espresso shot. He can roast beans, but he doesn't do any of those things professionally. That just informs his expertise. And I think this applies to what we do, in the sense that today, if you are making music in any aspect of it, you should be able to do everything. It doesn't mean you should be able to be the best mixer or the best singer or the best piano player or any of those things, but to know how to do them Like, why wouldn't you know how to do it? If you're a mix engineer, you should know how to record yourself singing vocals. You should know what it's like to get a great monitor mix. You should know what it's like to try to take a lead vocal and stack harmonies on top and try some in falsetto and see what that feels like and what it sounds like. Try some in chest voice, try lower, trying all these different things, even if what you're doing in the end is just finding the right volume and EQ for a vocal.
You should be trying to find out how to articulate why you're doing certain things, right? That's kind of what I keep getting back to with these questions of why do you do that? I haven't really gotten good answers to why people compress, right? We went on that last time we talked. It's like, well, why do you to balance? Okay, there's other tools now. So it's understanding that technology has become more advanced and we can do other things with these tools or don't even need to use tools. So yes, you should know how to do everything well enough to describe why you're doing it and then speak the language to the person that you're going to hire to spice it up, whether it be the producer from the demo or the engineer who's mixing it after the producer touches it, right, along the food chain.
I think my main advice to everybody who's asking about how to record vocals, how to mix vocals, and we can get into some specifics. I was actually listening to some of my favorite vocal productions earlier today in prep for talking to you. But I think anybody who wants to get better at making their vocals sound good, which these days is pretty much anybody making music because so many people are self-recording, is do it a lot and try a bunch of stuff and be a mixer, be an engineer, be a singer,
be a sound designer,
do all of that stuff, and it will inform what you're doing more than anything else. I
think the term sound designer incorporates most of that besides the singer. And in effect, the singer should be sound designing as well, depending on how they're vocalizing and doing things with their mouth, right? I think the sound designer term is new and fresh in our industry. Like to call a mixer, sure, but a producer can also be a mixer. But is a producer a mixer if he's not doing the final mix? No, the producer's a sound designer. The engineer that is co-producing with his production partner is the sound designer or a sound designer. And a mixer is also a sound designer.
So this is an all-encompassing term that, are you coining this? Are you trying to, because I'm with you on it.
No, I know. I've been thinking about this for a bit. Like, what do I do as a mixer in my role? What am I doing? I'm not doing what Bruce Swedian did when he mixed Michael Jackson. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing some of that, but it's not the only thing I'm doing, right? So I did this mix the other day that the artist and the producer said, love the way the vocal sounds. You know what I did to the vocal? I put it through some outboard tubes and I filtered up to 100. And I think I had like a transient shaper on the top. Like between my gear, the little bit of gear that I have that does some love, the needles weren't even moving, some color. It was processed well, sent to me. And then I just a little here and there, right? And that's an inspiringly recorded vocal that gives me the flexibility to do that. That's why the importance of this conversation discussing recording vocals is to allow someone like me really allowed to bring that character that they felt. I think they more felt it than heard it because it's such a subtle enhancement that I bet they can't even put a finger on what exactly I did. And I'm telling you guys online what I did, but I barely did anything, right? Yeah. So I just did the right things. And that's because I know and I can tell you why I did them. I didn't do them because someone told me I should do them.